Now part of the Darkcast Network. Welcome to Indie Podcasts with a Dark Side. In Canada, the youngest person ever charged with multiple counts of murder is named Jasmine Richardson. Today, I'll be telling you her case. It's the Richardson family murders, right now on Love and Murder. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to a new episode of Love and Murder, your weekly true crime podcast telling you cases of heartbreak that turn to homicide. Now, I purposefully got this episode out a bit late because I figured most people in the US would be busy watching the Super Bowl, so that's why it's this late. I am your host, Kai, and in today's episode, we're discussing a case of the Richardson family murders. Before we begin, I want to say that this episode is sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/loveandmurder. I want to thank you for your continued support, some of you since the beginning. Thank you so much. Now, if you're not part of Patreon, be sure to subscribe to Love and Murder right now while you're listening so you don't miss a case. You can subscribe on any platform you're on. If you didn't know, you can also subscribe on our Patreon so you don't have to hear intros like this or commercials. And you'll get Kai Rants, bonuses, and you'll be a sponsor of Love and Murder. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. In the meantime, though, grab your butts, grab your BJ's apple juice, murderandlove.com/BJs. And let's get into some Love and Murder. Deborah and Mark Richardson met at a substance abuse recovery program in 1990 and married the following year. They had their first child, which was a daughter named Jasmine Richardson, on October 21st, 1993. In 1996, their son Jacob was born. Now, even though Mark and Deborah previously suffered from addiction, they were very dedicated to their family, which made them dedicated to being sober. So they never fell back into their addiction, and they wanted to make sure that their children grew up probably like they didn't grow up. You know, I don't know their backstory, but I'm just saying, from just pulling it out there. Maybe they had an unstable childhood. Maybe they were children of divorce. I'm not sure. I'm just spitballing here. But because of that, maybe they decided that they wanted their children to have a stable home and have both parents and not fall into the pitfalls they fell into. This helped them stay sober and stay on the path of being great parents for their children. In speaking to friends and family, they were a great family unit and spent time as a family with the children a lot. Jasmine was a typical teenager or preteen because she was around 11 at this time. She was described as a happy person who surrounded herself with friends, family. She did well in school. She was actually a straight A student, and she was involved in her school's extracurricular activities. However, around this age, she started to change, and her family noticed she started going from happy to more moody, and she even started to dress differently. In the summer of 2005, when Jasmine was 11 going on 12, she started hanging with a group of people who were into goth. They would go to this place called the Medicine Hat Mall and just hang out there. So Jasmine took a liking to them, started getting interested in the goth culture, and started hanging around there with these people. Now, these people, they ranged in age from 12 to 21, and all of them were into goth. Jasmine also started making profiles on social media like Nexopia, MySpace, and VampireFreaks.com. Just so you know, for my US lambs, if you're not familiar with Nexopia, this is actually a Canadian website. Well, it was a popular Canadian website for young people between the years of 2003 to 2012. From what I'm reading, I'm guessing it was kind of like a mix between MySpace and Facebook. Not really sure, but my Canadian lambs would know more about it. Jasmine's username on Nexopia was Runaway Devil, and it also listed her age as 15 years old. Well, I don't want to say it like she didn't have any part of it, but she listed her age as 15 years old. But remember, she's only 11. And her tag was, quote, "Welcome to my tragic end." Then she went on to describe herself as a Wiccan, bisexual, nocturnal, awkward, insane, a deep thinker. And she also posted not PG-13 pictures of herself on there. For her hobbies, she said she was into dark poetry, blood, criminal psychology, kinky shit, and human anatomy. Then famous people that she decided that she wanted to look up to were Jeffrey Dahmer and Marilyn Manson, the singer. Now I just want to introduce a new person into this case. Jeremy Steinke, who was born on January 1983 to Jacqueline May. He lived in a trailer park with his parents, with his mother being an alcoholic and his father being physically abusive, but he was also an alcoholic. Everyone said that Jeremy was born with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which is FASD, and this causes a person to have many symptoms, but including the one that we're talking about today is a lower mental age. This means that even though he was, let's say, for instance, 12, he would actually act 5 and think like he was 5. Not only was he abused by his father, but when his mother and father split, he was also abused by 2 of his stepfathers. Now, Jeremy did not have a good home life or a good school life, and he was bullied at school, and by the time he reached 13, he had developed this persona of himself, where he would wear a vial of blood around his neck, and he would tell everyone that he was, quote, a 300-year werewolf. He also told everybody that he liked the taste of blood. By 14 years old, he had started smoking weed and tried acid and mushrooms. And by the 10th grade, he just stopped going to school. Jeremy continued on his life being an alcoholic and getting abused. And because of this, he started to harm himself. So he started cutting himself, and he'd even attempted suicide. By the summer of 2005, when Jeremy was 22, he had started to get into the goth lifestyle himself. Now, even though I'm saying, he was 22, remember, because of FASD, he's actually at the mental age of 14 to 16 years old. Being that he's getting into the goth lifestyle, he decided himself to make a profile on vampirefreaks.com. On his website profile, he listed his interests as pain, sacrification, kinky fetishes, razor blades, blood, and described himself as, quote, a gothic individual who believes in blood, destruction, guts, gore, and greed, end quote. At the same time, Jeremy also began hanging at the Medicine Hat Mall. He made friends there who were 14, 13, kind of like where his mental age was, but remember, he's a 22-year-old man. In February of 2006, Jeremy met Jasmine at a punk rock show, and a short while later, he asked her to be his girlfriend, and she said yes. Jasmine is 11. Jeremy is 22. Because of this, Jasmine didn't tell her family, because she knew her parents would flip the F out. However, while keeping this relationship secret, she constantly was talking to Jeremy on the phone, on Nexopia, on IM, and she would secretly meet him at the mall. Not only that, but she would sneak out of her house and go to his trailer and stay with him over there. When Jasmine told her friends that her and Jeremy were dating, they didn't think it was a good idea. They told her to stop. They reminded her the age, but, she didn't want to listen. She thought she was right. And, if you're doing as a teenager, some teenagers, I'm not going to say all, but if they're doing what they feel like they want to do and they feel like it's right, then they're not going to listen to anybody. Now, because of this new lifestyle and because of her sneaking out and basically acting like she wouldn't normally act, her grades plummeted. She started acting differently at home. She would leave her little brother home alone to go out with friends. and just turn it into a completely different version of herself. And because of this, her mom and dad decided to ground her, and they took her phone away from her. They took her computer away from her. They didn't allow her to really speak to her friends. All she would have to do is go to school, come home. And on top of that, they decided to start going to counseling as a family. With the counseling and with the groundings, things started to get better at home. And they decided, well, Jasmine's doing a little bit better, so we're going to let her go to this punk rock concert with her friends. But Mark and Deborah decided that they were going to go along. Once there was an intermission during the concert, they went to look for Jasmine, and they found her in a weird place. It wasn't in the concert. They found her in an alleyway making out with some older guy who they didn't know who it was. But as we know, it was Jeremy. All they saw was their 11-year-old making out with a grown-ass man. Now, this both scared Mark and Deborah and pissed them off, and they told her that she was not allowed to see Jeremy anymore. They kept her phone and computer to make sure that she wouldn't contact him. However, that does not stop children. If they want to do it, they're going to do it. And again, I'm not saying all children, just some children. So when Jasmine was not around her parents, she still found a way to contact Jeremy online. And in 2006, their relationship became sexual. Now, in Canada, in 2006, the age of consent for sexual activity is actually 14. But that was back in 2006. I don't know what it is now. I didn't look that up. So she's 11, and this is considered sexual assault. After 2 months in their relationship, and I'm using that in air quotes if you didn't really hear the inflection in my voice, Jeremy and Jasmine started planning to murder Jasmine's mom and her father. In an Exopia message, Jasmine told Jeremy that she wanted to kill her family and live with him. Quote, "I have this plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." Jasmine also ran around and told her friends about her plan to kill her parents because, if you're going to do this, you tell everybody, write a blog about it, put it all on your social media, send voice recordings, tell strangers that you just meet on the street, just tell everybody. But her friends did not believe her because, they knew she had an awesome family and awesome parents and a cute little brother. So who would want to mess that up? So they laughed, thought it was a crazy joke, Jasmine the goth, ah, ha, 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 ha. And they moved on. Now, I want to pause here to thank you for listening and supporting Love and Murder. If you'd like to support me even more to help me keep the content flowing and get access to exclusive bonus episodes in return, you can join my Lamb Supporters Club today. I give you multiple ways to join on Patreon, Spotify, and even Spreaker. The link to each is in the episode description below, which you can find right below the episode title on your preferred listening platform. Your support makes a world of difference to me as I do this as a full-time job to get these victims' story heard. Thanks for being a part of Lamb community and Lamb's podcast journey. Speaking of journey, I have an amazing money-saving journey for you to go on right now. With grocery prices rising, I know you, like myself, are looking for any way to get those dollar bills down. That's why it's the best time to join BJ's Club. As you might have heard in the beginning of this episode, I love BJ's. I signed up with them about 2 years ago, and I just did it as a test, and clearly they passed because I'm still a member. Join me and thousands of others in saving money on your grocery bill by being part of BJ's Club. Use my link, murderandlove.com/BJ's to get $35 off of a 1-year membership. murderandlove.com/BJ's. Join now. And now, back to the show. Jeremy, on the other hand, told her that he liked her plan. So her friends were laughing at it, but Jeremy was like, no, that's a great plan. Actually, what he said was, quote, "Well, I love your plan, but we need to get a little more creative with the details and stuff," end quote. Jeremy then wrote in his blog, quote, "Payment. My lover's rents are totally unfair." Oh God, yeah, he is talking like he's 5. My lover's rants are totally unfair. They say they really care. They don't know what is going on. They just assume. As their greed continues to consume, she is slowly going insane. She continues to think that I came into her life to help her out and to stop what they keep trying to shout. What? Anyways, continuing on. It's all total bullshit. Their throats I want to slit. They will regret the shit they have done, especially when I see to it that they are gone. They shall pay for their insolence. Finally, there shall be silence. Their blood shall be payment. I guess he was trying to write a poem. This was terrible. Okay. Now, I know people are going to try and paint him as having a mental disability, but he's 22. I understand he has the mind of a 14-year-old. But even at 14, they know that murder is bad. They know that murder is wrong. And that's not something that a normal 14-year-old would turn to. So I still say bullshit on the fact that he has a mental disability. I mean, he does, don't get me wrong. But in terms of acting like that's a reasoning for being okay with murder or looking for sympathy for him, even if he had the mental capacity of a 14-year-old, 14-year-olds know that murder is wrong. So then he went back and said that, you know what? I know you just want to kill your parents, but we're not just going to kill your parents. We're going to kill your little brother too. And Jasmine said, okay. Now, Jeremy then went and asked his friend Grant Bolt if he wanted to take part in the murders. And Grant was like, nah, man, that's all you. Then Jeremy went to ask another friend of his, 17-year-old Jordan Adderfield. And Jordan said, no, I don't think so. And that's it. So just like Jasmine, Jeremy went and told everybody, hey, you over there with the brown plastic bag. I don't know why they're carrying a brown plastic bag, but go with me here. Hey, you with the brown plastic bag, you wanna help me commit a murder? No? Okay, can you ask your friend? Maybe ask your mom. Maybe she wants to help. I'm gonna go over there and ask this guy over here who's helping me load my car of these groceries if he wants to help me. But you over there, you've never met me before. Think about it. Hey, guy helping me load the groceries. This weekend, I'm gonna kill my girlfriend's parents. You wanna join in? No? Oh, man, what is wrong with you people? Yeah, that's what he was doing. But the thing about it is, even though they were running around telling all these people about their plans before it even happened, like, hey, yeah, I'm going to do this. Hey, yeah, I'm going to do this. Hey, Billy, I'm going to do this. Josephine, I'm going to do that. Even though they were running around telling all these people of their plans, not one person reported this to the police at all. Can you believe that? Not one person. I understand her friends probably thought she was playing because she doesn't have that kind of personality. That's not who she was. And they knew that, you know, her parents were amazing. Her family was amazing. She came from an amazing background. So they thought she was playing. I don't really blame those friends because, you know, they're children. Children make dumb jokes like that sometimes. So I understand from their perspective, and they probably feel terrible that they didn't go to anybody. However, this grown man's friends running around telling them, and like he sounds serious and they know what kind of person he is, and they didn't even, you know, call 911, say, hey, we have a friend who's usually high on drugs and drunk, and he's talking about murdering some people. So maybe y'all want to pick him up and look into that? You know? No, they didn't do that either. So on Sunday, April 23rd, 2006, after Jeremy and Jasmine watched the 1994 movie Natural Born Killers, they decided to go on with their plan. Now, for those of you who never watched Natural Born Killers, like myself, I have no idea what this movie is. This is a movie following a young couple as they decided to become serial killers, murdering people across the United States. And this is what they decided to watch. So then, after watching this movie, Jeremy went in Jasmine's house with a mask on his face, and he had a large knife with him. So when he snuck into the family's basement, Deborah happened to be there. Now, Deborah at this time is 48 years old, and Jeremy ended up stabbing her 12 times. Now, Mark, who's 42 at this time, heard his wife screaming, jumped up and ran downstairs. saw that she was being attacked by this masked man and took a screwdriver and started going after this masked man. He started fighting him, and Jeremy managed to get Mark off of him and ended up stabbing him 24 times. Included in the 24 stabbings were 9 deep wounds to the back. After that, Jasmine joined Jeremy, and then they went up to Jacob's room. So when they got into Jacob's room, Jeremy told Jasmine to go ahead and kill her brother. And she didn't want to do that. She said, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Then her brother woke up and started pleading for his life because they're sitting there having a conversation over him about how they're going to kill him or who's going to kill him or whatever. So her little brother, who's 8, said, quote, I'm scared. I'm too young to die. And then Jasmine grabbed him from behind and stabbed him in the chest 4 times. And then Jeremy slit his throat from ear to ear. After that, they fled from the house, and one of their friends, Casey Lancaster, who was 19, drove them away from the house. Now, I do want to note that some places that I researched, they said that it was unknown who killed Jacob. Was it Jasmine or Jeremy? They don't know which blow was the end result blow. The next day, one of Jacob's friends came over for a play date, and nobody was answering the door. But when he looked through the window, he thought he saw a body laying on the floor. So he ran home and told his mother, and his mother called the police. Inspector Brent Secondiak arrived at the scene, and he went around the house trying to, see if he could see anything. He knocked on the door. Nobody answered. And then he looked through the basement window, and that's when he saw somebody on the ground. So he called for backup. And when backup arrived, they went into the house trying to see if they could maybe help somebody. And that's when they found everybody dead. However, by accounts of who should be in this house, they only found Mark, Deborah, and Jacob, but they did not find Jasmine. So they started getting scared, thinking that whoever this intruder was kidnapped Jasmine, and they probably have her. So they posted a bolo. So with the bolo, which is be on the lookout, they said that they were looking for the Richardson daughter. They gave a description and, quote, regarding a serious family matter. Inspector Secondiak said, quote, I truly believe that this person was missing and possibly abducted. It wasn't even in the realm of possibility that she was an accused. Now, while they're searching for her, in a video surveillance, this comes out later, while they're searching for her, 2 hours after her parents were murdered, basically, she helped murder her parents and her family, Jasmine and Jeremy were seen happily eating in a restaurant with not a care in the world. But while they're eating and sleeping and having fun and being merry, police are searching for her. And through evidence in her room and in her locker, police realized, wait a second, she's not a victim. She wasn't kidnapped. She helped this. She probably did this. They didn't know if she had an accomplice or whatever, but they knew that she was the prime suspect. Basically because there was a trail of evidence, emails between her and Jeremy detailing what they're going to do and everything like that. So police knew now that she wasn't a victim. So police caught up with Jeremy, Jasmine, and Casey Lancaster in Leader, Saskatchewan. Sorry if I said that wrong. About 80 miles away from where the murder took place. Right before they were arrested, or they even knew police were around them, police witnessed them laughing and cuddling and everything like that. Once they were arrested, both Jeremy and Jasmine were charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. While being interrogated, Jeremy would tell the detective that, quote, natural-born killers, I think that's one of the greatest love stories of all time. Also during the investigation, police spoke with many witnesses who did testify that Jeremy and Jasmine went around telling everybody about what they did. One witness said that Jeremy told him, quote, the victims had been gutted like fish. So while awaiting trial, of course, Jeremy and Jasmine were behind bars, and they immediately started exchanging notes to each other. As a matter of fact, Jeremy proposed marriage to Jasmine, and she accepted. Jasmine had also been bragging to the inmates about how the family's murder had turned them into, quote, legends, and they would, quote, as she says, be immortal. And later on in one of her letters, she also said what she said, quote, that's our 5 minutes of fame. Immortality means people will remember you, end quote. At her 2007 trial, Jasmine, who because of Canadian law was only identified as JR once it came out that she was a minor. In Canada, you can't put minors' names in the press, so they only identified her as JR, pled not guilty. She said, yeah, you saw all those notes that I was writing to Jeremy, but those were, quote, hypothetical situations. I was just having a hypothetical conversation about killing my entire family. Hypothetically. So you can't tell me that, this is your evidence, because my family's only hypothetically dead, and I only hypothetically told everybody who would listen that I would hypothetically kill them. So yeah, nobody bought that because she ran around telling everybody that she was going to do it. And after it was done, she ran around telling everybody she did it. Plus those notes. So hypothetical, my ass, said the judge in my head. So in November of 2007, Jasmine was sentenced to 10 years in prison with credit for the 18 months she had already spent in custody. After she was to get out of prison, she would have 4 years in a mental health facility and then another 4 years under community supervision. In Canada, this process is known as rehabilitation, so that when she's released, she can easily integrate back into society. Now, what I was telling you about, she went by JR, let me kind of expand on that. So under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, like I said, her name couldn't be published in the media in Canada as soon as she became a suspect because of her age. Under that same act, 12 is the youngest possible age where a person can be charged with a crime. Convicts who are under 14 at the time of the crime can't be sentenced as adults and can't be given more than a 10-year sentence. So they basically gave Jasmine the maximum sentence they could because remember, she's only 12. Jeremy, on the other hand, is a 23-year-old man at this time. So in December of 2008, he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences, one for each first-degree murder count, with no chance of parole for 25 years. However, Jeremy was never charged with sexual interference because he never actually admitted to having a sexual relationship with Jasmine. So they took that off the table and they were like, oh, it doesn't matter anyway. 3 life sentences, rot in jail, have fun. Since he's been in prison, Jeremy actually changed his name to Jackson May because his mother, who died in 2016, he wanted to pay homage to her, and her name was Jacqueline May. I don't know where the Jackson came from, but I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to get his name out of the news. I don't know. But it's still in the news because everybody found out that you changed your name to Jackson May. So whatever. Casey, the getaway driver, was charged with accessory to murder, but it was dropped as she pled guilty to an obstruction charge. So she received 1 year of house arrest as part of the plea bargain. And she was also forbidden from using drugs and alcohol. Now, Jasmine, while she was in prison, she was diagnosed with conduct disorder. And in the fall of 2011, she started attending the Mount Royal University in Calgary. In the fall of 2011, she was released from her 10-year sentence and went to a psychiatric hospital. And in October of 2012, it was reported that her rehabilitation was going along well. Jasmine did come forth and say that she was very sorry for what she did. And experts said that her apology and her remorse was genuine. Once she was released from her psychiatric stay, she got an apartment with a roommate and she started working with a full-time job. And in May of 2016, when she was 23, she was fully released from the program and given a new identity. That new identity was not released to the public, so she's just walking around with a new name, bright new future ahead of her. Court of Queen's Bench Justice Scott Brooker said, quote, "You've indicated through your conduct you have a desire to atone for what you did. Clearly, you cannot undo the past. You can only live each day with the knowledge that you can control how you behave." In 2020, when she was 27, her record was completely expunged as part of a deal of staying out of trouble. It's also speculated that Jasmine still lives in Calgary. Inspector Secondiak says he has conflicting emotions over Jasmine's sentence and the fact that she's just free and clear now with her expunged records, which is literally how I feel too. Quote, At one point, I wanted her locked up forever. I don't think I'm there now. I hope she moves on and becomes a productive member of society. I don't think she's truly evil. I've met some of those people that are bad to the bone, and she's not one of them." End quote. And this is why Jasmine Richardson, aka whatever she's called now, is believed to be the youngest person ever convicted of a multiple murder in Canada. So, what do you think about this case? Just like Inspector Secondiak, I don't know what to think. I honestly don't know what to think. I mean, she helped murder her family. I don't want to say she murdered her mom and her dad, but she helped set up murdering her mom and her dad. She knew what was going on. And then she stabbed her little brother and watched him get his throat cut from ear to ear. I mean, she didn't want to stab her little brother, but she did go through with it anyway. Yes, she was 11, 12, whatever. But like I said, at that age, you know right from wrong. And never in the history of ever, if you ever asked me at that age, would I kill my family? No. As much as my little brothers were getting on my nerves, it was never, ever, 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 ever in the everest of evers an option for me. And if somebody ever said that, hey, you want me to help you kill your family, I would have literally told my mom or called the cops on that person. I don't care who they were. So the fact that she's just free and clear now, I mean, according to Canada's law, that's what they do. I don't know how I feel about the end of this. I don't know how I feel about it. She did show remorse. I don't know. Jeremy ended up getting 3 life sentences for all 3 of them. But then she only got 10 years record expunged and a whole life ahead of her. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I want to hear how you feel about that. Now, I did read comments on the internet about this case, about most people blaming Jeremy. Like they're saying, like, because he was the older person, no matter if he had that fetal alcohol syndrome and he has the mental capacity of somebody who's younger, he was still older. And they were saying that he coerced her into doing it and all that stuff. And I know y'all might jump down my throat for it, but no, there's no way. Like I said, even if somebody told me, hey, let's go kill your family, it's no way. It's no way. At 5, it's no way. I wouldn't have done it. So I don't really think he coerced her. You know, she can make her own decisions. And this is the decision that she wanted to make. Just like she made the decision of not listening to her parents, she made the decision of going with this guy. That's just my thoughts on it. Y'all might think different. So I don't know. I know not everyone will agree with me. That's expected. So that's why we have a poll. So this week's question is, do you think the blame is 100% on Jeremy, or was it correct to hold Jasmine accountable too? And then I'm just going to have a follow-up question, which is, what do you think about the punishment that Jasmine got and the fact that her record is clean and she's just living life? So the poll is, do you think the blame would be on Jeremy, or do you think Jasmine should have been held accountable too? Yes or no? That's the poll. But then on Spotify, you have the opportunity to answer a question. Now for the poll, I heard that, you know, some people messaged me and told me that they don't have access to the poll, or they have a hard time finding the poll. Well, with the polls, it closes. So you only have a certain time frame to answer the poll. So I closed the poll by Sunday, the next episode coming out. So Sunday, the poll closes. I keep it open for the whole week and it closes on Sunday. So if you get to the episode after the poll closes, that's why you're not able to answer the poll. However, you have an option to leave a comment on Spotify or whatever platform. They have options to leave comments. So you could definitely do that. So if you missed this poll, you could definitely just go and answer under my question. What do you think about this episode is usually the general question there. This time I'm going to actually have a question of what do you think about Jasmine's punishment? Speaking of comments and polls, here are the past comments from full episodes. So the first one is from last week's full episode, Love, Lies, Suicide, and Murder, the case of William Boyd Guthrie. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that. The poll question was, do you think Bill murdered her or was it suicide? And 100% of people said it was murder. And I completely agree. Then in the comments, Zenath said, I'm from South Africa and I really enjoy your podcast because you keep it real. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you so much, Zeenath. I really try and keep it real. Even though some people don't like my realness, this is how I do it. Miss Busybody said, first time listener here, I absolutely love this episode. Thank you so much, Miss Busybody. I love that you are a lamb. Butcher Pete said, the I couldn't have done it because I'm impotent excuse nearly made me spit my coffee out. Yeah, that was really funny. And they continue, by the way, Kai, you're right. If I had a loved one that had an accident, I would at least cover their naked body before EMS came. Yeah, I couldn't see like having a loved one and they're in the bathtub. Maybe they had a heart attack in the bathtub or whatever, and they're completely naked. I would never, ever let somebody come and just find them naked like that. That's so, I wouldn't do that. That's to me, that's disrespectful. Christina Bobo said, yay, I can't wait to tune in. New here. I truly appreciate your style of storytelling, your voice and personality, the way you stay on task, the respect and detail you give to each case. You are the bomb. Plus, you're a fellow Philly girl, so rate you 11 out of 10 for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad you rated me 10 or 11 out of 10. The one extra star just from being in Philly. Thank you. Now, the next comment I have is from the Gypsy Rose case. If you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that because, I had my own thoughts about that whole thing. And this was before. Apparently now everybody is turning against Gypsy Rose, which I said that when I first came out and everybody was like, no, well, I don't want to say everybody. Some people were like, no, I feel bad for her, da, da, da. Now everybody's turning on her. Hey, my whole thing was, as I say, and I still stand by it, I felt bad for the abuse she went through. Yes, definitely feel bad for that. The fact that she murdered her mom or helped to murder her mom or sat there while she listened to her mom being murdered. Okay, let's argue that she was so traumatized that she felt like she had no other possible way to get out of it. Let's argue that her mom really scrambled her brain and she didn't know up from down, right from wrong. The part where you cannot change my mind is that she had sex with the murderer, probably while he still had blood on him, in the room, in the house, right where she listened to her mom being murdered. That is the part nobody will ever change my mind on. Never. That's the part that really solidified it for me. So that was me. But anyway, this comment is from Lady Red 1977. I've heard a few episodes and I love them. I do feel sorry for Gypsy, but before her mom was killed, they could have handcuffed her and then went for help. Exactly. She could have made a different choice. She didn't have to murder her mom. She could have figured out a way out of there. She was sneaking out already. So why don't you just sneak out and not come back? There was no way that this was your end choice. Like, well, I have to do this. Like, you could have just left. Stacy Marie said, have to comment on Gypsy. I feel for her as a child. She would have been innocent, manipulated, and trust betrayed. But she was also learning her mom's behaviors, including manipulation and lies. I hear all that, but the sex in the room right next to her mother's dead body, can't get over it. Won't ever get over that. And then under the McStay family murders, if you want to listen to that one, that's another one where the family was murdered. Go back and listen to that one. That's all season 4 so far. My question was, what discrepancies were highlighted in the case that raised doubts about the conclusion of the investigation? And Carry On Jules said none. Thank you. Thank you, Carry On. And that is all I have for you for this episode, which was supposed to be coming out on Sunday, but it was Super Bowl Sunday in the US. And I know a lot of people are watching the Super Bowl and, they're staying up late and they even call into work. So I decided to put this out today instead. Don't forget to go back and answer the poll. And don't forget to share this episode with your friends. That's a free and easy way that you could just help me out. Hit share on your podcast platform, whatever platform you're listening on, and just share it to your social media. Share to your Instagram. You could share to Pinterest. You could share to Facebook. You could share to TikTok. You could just share this episode. You can also share it to your friends. Send them a text message, share it in WhatsApp, whatever. Share. And as always, I want to end this episode by reminding you that it's all love and no murder, y'all. Bye. Hey, before you go, don't forget to give me a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on. It could be Apple Podcasts, it could be Spotify, it could be Good Pods, it could be Spreaker, whatever platform you're listening on. If you could just take 5 seconds of your time and leave me a 5-star review, all you have to do is hit the 5-star. And then if it asks you for a description, you can even say one word, awesome. You could say Philly girl, you could say love this, whatever you want to post, but the 5-star review really, really helps me out. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a lamb. Bye.
Hello, and welcome to Cause of Death. My name is Jackie Moranti. I've been studying infectious disease for 14 years in various research settings. I have a Bachelor's of Science from Colorado State University in microbiology, immunology, and virology. I've worked with diseases like tuberculosis, SARS-1, and SARS-CoV-2, better known as COVID-19, and I've worked with EHV1. It's my feeling that if we look back at the pandemics of the past, we may be able to better handle the pandemics of the future. The problem is, we have to learn our lessons first. Come along with me while I tell you about the pandemics, the epidemics, and the outbreaks, and how we never seem to learn our lesson.